Hi, in this video I'd like to welcome you to EDU 9701. This is the beginning of the proposal process which leads to the dissertation. And this is such an important class because it's really shifting from coursework and research classes, research methods rather, to where you're actually writing a proposal which leads to your dissertation. So let's get started with what to expect in this course. It's really the beginning of the journey. It's the beginning of four research courses where you work on your proposal and your dissertation. So in this course, you go from a research topic to a complete dissertation proposal in 8 weeks. And it really is amazing the work and transformation that takes place in these 8 weeks. Now, some of you have a topic in mind, some of you might not. You might not have something quite ready yet. Either way, you are starting more or less at the beginning. And to be honest, sometimes it will feel like you're going from 0 to 100 miles an hour. But I would encourage you to hold on to your hats and choose to work hard and see what happens, because it really is transformational as students work through these next 8 weeks. Now, to be a little more specific, you're going to write 4 drafts of your dissertation proposal in this course. Draft 1 is focusing on, ironically, not chapter 1, but chapter 2, which is the literature review. Now, for draft 1, you will only write the literature review. You do not need to write the other chapters. However, we do ask you to create an outline for the other chapters. You'll just need to look at the course website for the details on that. But draft 1 is basically just chapter 2. The second draft, you're now going to write the introduction. And you're going to write the introduction, but at the same time, you're going to also update your literature review, because you'll receive feedback from me or whichever professor is leading this course. So you're going to be doing the introduction plus the literature review. Then for draft 3, you're going to write the methods chapter, which is chapter 3, but now you're going to be going back and adding more to the literature review and more to the introduction. So by draft 3, you'll really have 3 chapters. You'll have chapter 3, which you're just doing the first draft of, plus the literature review, which by now will be your 3rd time looking at it, and chapter 1, the introduction, which you'll have done twice, or rather revised once and written once. Now, draft 4 is when you really have a complete proposal. You'll also need to have some appendices, which have like your survey instrument if you're doing a survey, or your interview questions and form emails and some other things. All of that we will deal with in more detail later. But draft 4, you're going to be going back and really touching on all of these. So the point is that you keep revising and revising and revising. It's not a one and done type of process. It's going to be iterative. To be a little bit more specific, you're starting with the research topic. If you don't have that, then in week 1, we certainly talk about that. In week 1, you're going to write your purpose statement and research questions. And then we get into the drafts that I've just described. Draft 1, 2, 3, and then finally draft 4 down here by the end of the course. So you've got your work cut out for you. It is doable, but it is quite a bit of work, and we encourage you to make the time for it. Just to give you a sense of where this course fits in the larger sequence, it is the first of the 4 dissertation courses. So this is an 8-week course, and you're going to write 4 drafts in those 8 weeks. So quite a bit. Like I said, you'll also do something called the city training, which is a research ethics online course, and there's more of that on the course website. But in order to pass the class, you will need to complete that training. The next 8 weeks are composed of more drafts of your proposal. You'll only write 2 drafts this time, drafts 5 and draft 6. You'll also need to gather a committee, which means identifying a professor who's going to be the chair, and then 2 readers, 2 other professors who will be kind of secondary role. And you'll also need to get approval from the institutional review board. And then in 9703 is when you actually have to share your proposal with your committee. 3 people will read it. They will give you some feedback, and when they feel like you're ready, then you'll do a live defense online, probably via Zoom or via Microsoft Teams or something like that. And then once you get your defense completed, you are free to go and do your research. You can go send out your survey, or you can do your interviews or your observations, or whatever it is that you have proposed to do. You will be free to do it at that point. The last course is the actual dissertation, where you're gathering your data. That could be interviews again, or survey, or other ways you're gathering data. And you're going to analyze it and write and defend. And 16 weeks is not a lot of time to do that in. Some students choose to take 9704 again, just to give yourself a little more time. And we can go through that in more detail later. But why work so hard in 9701 when you have really 2 more proposal courses coming? And the short answer is, the more you do now, the better it will be down the road. Experience has taught us that it's better to put in the work now. You don't want to have to retake the course. Of course, you don't want to have to pay for that. And so pay attention now, put in the hard work now, and you'll reap the rewards and the fruit down the road. What should you expect in this course? Well, lots of iteration. And by iteration, I don't mean going around in a circle, right? That means you're just back where you started again. Iteration is more of a, you might think of it like where you're going back, but then you don't arrive exactly where you started, and you keep moving forward, right? So you keep changing a bit each time. Even though you feel like you're going backwards, you're still moving forwards. So it's a bit of a spiral, you might say, and you slowly and eventually move forward towards your goal. So you're receiving feedback, you're listening to that feedback, you're incorporating it into your proposal. You're also paying attention to the course resources that we've provided, the dissertation manual, and all of those things, and moving forward. I do want to point out that a dissertation proposal is not a typical course paper. And here's where, by this time in your life and this time in your academic career, you've taken dozens of courses. You've written probably dozens of papers, and you're kind of a professional student, more or less. And so you're going to have to, I hate to say unlearn, but at least change your thinking from that kind of typical course mindset. For one thing, this paper is longer than most papers, or maybe any paper you've written. It'll be, I'm not sure how many pages, but it depends on the student, but it could be 30, 40, 50 pages. So quite long. And another difference between this and a regular course paper is simply that more people are going to read it. Not just your professor, but you're going to have your 3 people on your committee read it as well. And down the road, more people will as well. Another important difference is that this paper is not just theoretical. You know, when you write a course paper, the nice thing about it is you don't have to do anything. You just, you argue for some ideas, but in the end, there's no commitment, really. But in this paper, you're committing to action, because you're proposing that I'm going to go and do this type of research. I'm going to talk to this kind of people. I'm going to act in this certain way. And that's going to affect other people. And it's important to us as the university, and it's important, I think, simply as believers, to want to treat other people with care and with caution and with respect. And so that's one reason why dissertation proposals are looked at carefully, is because we want to know that you're going to be treating your participants well. You're going to be respecting them, treating them the way that you would want to be treated. And this affects you, really. You want to end up with a dissertation, with a degree. And so we want you to get off on the right foot, so that you don't spend the next several weeks and months going the wrong direction, and then finding out, oops, I didn't do what I needed to do, and now I'm where I don't want to be, and I need to redo things. And that's not a helpful place to be. So we scrutinize the proposal carefully, and we provide a lot of feedback because we don't want you to end up wasting your time, wasting others' time. We want it to be a good experience for you, and I think you want it to be a good experience as well. Another thing is most dissertations end up being publicly available on ProQuest. So this is not like a typical course paper that gets, buried in your professor's desk, never to be seen again, or, lost in some file somewhere. This will be around for a long time. And so keep that in mind. That's another reason why we are extra careful with this one, because it really is a public document of sorts, and you want it to reflect the best of you. So the way I think about proposals and getting started with research, it's like a road that slowly divides. And at first it seems fine, but if you get off on the wrong path, like eventually you're going to find out you're in the wrong place and you won't end up where you want to go. I don't know if you remember, but going back to geometry, if there's two lines that seem parallel, but then if one line is slightly different, maybe even just 1 degree difference, eventually those two lines split and become obviously different, and they end up in different destinations. So those little differences now, the little wording or the little things that seem unimportant now become big down the road when it's 9 months later, 6 months later, a year later, and you're trying to defend your dissertation. So we pay attention to the details because we want you to end up in the right place with the data that you wanted to collect and the study that you wanted to complete, so you feel good about your dissertation. Now I'm just going to go through different types of students that I've observed and that I have been or have been, had classmates like this. And these are just stereotypes, obviously, but different ways that students kind of approach the dissertation process, and some cautions here. So one is the perfectionist, and if you're a perfectionist, you probably know it, right? Because for a perfectionist, you want everything to be perfect before you get started. And getting started can be such a huge hurdle because you want to know everything and it to be perfect and everything lined up. And that can be a hindrance to actually doing the work. So if you're the perfectionist type, you're going to need to say, hey, I just need to get words on a page. I need to do something. I need to produce. And then I can go back and let my perfectionist side come out when I revise. But if you allow that perfectionism to keep you from doing anything, then you're not going to get out of the starting blocks. You're going to have to let down that overemphasis on accuracy and let yourself try and let yourself put words on a page. The busy person applies to a lot of us, perhaps all of us. A lot of times we're well-intentioned, like, oh, I would love to do that, or I'm planning to do it, but then I get busy, I have things to do, I've got a job, or I've got family or ministry or whatever it is, and boom, 8 weeks is gone, and you haven't done what you needed to do to be successful. And so you're going to need to carve out time, probably every day or at least 5 or 6 days a week, and to really work on your proposal, whether you feel like it or not. And I would encourage you to figure out those times that really are most effective for you. If you're a morning person, I would give yourself a few hours in the morning. If you're an evening person, give yourself a few hours in the evening. You know yourself the best, I hope. The idea person, some of us are just like the philosopher types. We can talk about ideas and talk about the scholars and the theories that we like and just, for hours on end. But then when it comes to actually doing something, producing something, writing a paper, that becomes harder because then you have to commit to a certain path. And so if you're an idea person that never likes to land, you're going to have to land somewhere. You're going to have to commit to a research question, a purpose statement, maybe several research questions, and you're going to have to say, look, for the next several weeks and months, I can't chase every idea that I like and that I'm interested in. I can't learn about every theory. I'm going to have to commit to one narrow research focus and let that be your idea and your focus for that amount of time. And after your dissertation is done and you've got your degree, you can go back to being a philosopher if you'd like and discussing as long as you want, but at least your dissertation will be done. The fourth one is kind of the opposite of the perfectionist, the person that just kind of gets things done but doesn't pay attention to the rules or the details. And getting things done is important, but the flip side is that you have to follow the rules. So in our case, we use APA style. There are a lot of details that are not fun for this type of a personality, but you have to follow them. And so I would encourage you, if you don't like the details, you still have to learn it. How do I cite a journal? How do I cite a book? How do I cite a website? How do I use quotation marks correctly? How do I use page numbers correctly? How do I write with the type of precision that I need to write with? So if you don't like details, you're going to have to buckle down and say, hey, I'm gonna learn it. I'm gonna try my best, even if it's not really my strong point. We all have weak points, and your proposal and dissertation will kind of test those, but you can do it. You just have to be aware that I've got to look at my kind of approach to life and plan accordingly. Finally, I think it's just important to say you can do it. So I don't want to scare you. I think that this is not a fearful thing. Many students have written proposals and dissertations, and you can too. That's the truth. I would encourage you to make this a spiritual exercise as well as an academic one. So that means praying about it and then building a team of supporters. It might be just one other person on your team, maybe a spouse or a friend who can pray with you, who can encourage you, who you can kind of confide in. Or it could be several people. And finally, set aside regular time to work on your proposal. I've said this before. I'd also encourage you to use the resources that we've provided. I've made several checklists for each chapter, and I want you to look at those. There are some videos, and there are books and the dissertation manual. All of those things you need to be paying attention to. And finally, I would encourage you to stay in touch with your colleagues and your professor. I'm here to support you, so please contact your professor, and if you need to ask a question or get some clarity, that's what we're here for. So I wish you all the best in 9701, and let's get started. I'm looking forward to our course, and I think that you will be amazed at what you're able to do in the next 8 weeks. All right.